Hello everybody, this is Fernando. This is gonna be my first YouTube video. I'd like to welcome everybody to what hopefully will be a brand new video series for you Pokemon TCG card game lovers out there. It's going to be a set review for the upcoming set Burning Shadows. I'm going to be using PokeBeach on untranslated cards to basically let you guys know what I think about the new set, and just so everybody knows, I have a specific list that I made beforehand, and I'm only going to be going through the cards that I believe impact the game. There won't be any like fun techs or cards that are not strictly for competitive play in this set review. So with that said, let's just jump right to it. Hopefully also in the near future I will bring you guys deck lists using PTCGO, Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, of what I believe are the best decks. If I can get all the cards for those in a timely manner for the new set, for example, I'll also be doing what decks could be tier 1, maybe even tier 1.5, but definitely competitive content soon to come, hopefully. So the first card I want to look at right now is Golisopod GX. So we have, first of all, let's start with Wimpod. He has a kind of a neat ability. During the first turn of the game, this retreat causes 0. It's 30 normally, as you can see. Zooming in for you. So this is basically, it gives it a free float stone on turn 1, so you don't have to find a retrieve for it. If this is not exactly the Pokemon you want to start with, say you want to start with a Lurantis on turn 1, something like that, you do have access to, since it is in the grass archetype. Let's see, now for the main attacker. So definitely the most powerful attack on this Pokemon is the first attack. It's the one that jumps at you as the most powerful, since 1 energy. Let's compare it a lot to Garbodor, for example. Garbodor, for 1 energy, when your opponent starts getting around 4 or 5 items in the graveyard, you can say you're getting value for your attack. 100 is a decent amount of damage. This one is guaranteed 120 for a single green, regardless of what your opponent does. If you make him your active Pokemon that turn, there's a lot of flexibility in how to switch Pokemon from the bench to the active position in this format right now, and we're getting a few more that will be discussed in this set review as well, such as Guzma, soon to come. So definitely could be an extremely powerful card. For just a DCE, you can gain access to its next 2 abilities. It says Armor Press 100 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from opponent attacks. Just a utility attack. You never know if you can't retreat, or if you don't necessarily have to deal the 120 damage. If 100 knocks them out, you can get a little bit of tankiness, defense. It already has 210 HP, so definitely just a utility attack, but most of the time won't be used, just for the sake of energy efficiency. And the GX attack, just a basic 150 attack for 3 energies, kind of like the norm of the format as it is right now, and it switches with bench Pokemon. Just a little neat ability there in case it already has damage on it, or you just want to tank your opponent's attack with a different Pokemon. So definitely has a lot of potential. Anything in that is grass has potential because of forest. It might be rotating soon, but could still see play at Worlds. So he is definitely something to look out for coming into the new set. A quick note on this Gyarados right here. It might not see any play at all, but it does go well with the current Gyarados that we have available to us in standard right now. It definitely serves a purpose as a final attacker. Say you have no other way to set up anymore your Magikarp with damage. They got rid of all your recycling cards or all your stadiums, etc. He has a pretty decent set amount of damage. It would be 150 in the later portions of the game, so definitely works out as one of in a late game scenarios, but for the most part I don't really see him having any amount of play. But anything is possible in Worlds format because it'll be so diverse. Let's go on to the next one. So this little basic Raichu, there's Pikachu right here. Simple attacks, flip coin, it heads paralyzed. It's decent. The mana cost is not great, but if you need to attack with him, it's good. And then the actual Raichu. So this Pokemon, I'm on the fence about how playable exactly this is. It could see play in quad Tapu Koko deck in the near future, after rotation. But for the most part, the way that I and some of the people that I've been speaking to about this card say it's essentially just not necessary for what lightning decks in general want to do, and it could be a splash in things like Vespiquen because they just naturally play a lot of items, but there are just so many versatile splashable cards in the game that I do not know if this card's power level allows him to be splashed in certain decks that he would want to go into. Maybe he just doesn't have a home at all at this present moment, but definitely has a lot of potential. Auto paralysis is something not to be trifled with for sure. So see his little picture right here. It's pretty cool. Definitely picking him up just for the style points. Raichu is cool indeed. Next Pokemon we're going to look at right now. So going to talk for a little bit about this guy or girl, snake. Seviper is absolutely incredible. She allows you to basically abuse poison, the poison mechanic, by having it boosted up from that 10 damage counters to 20 to 30, depending on how many of her you have in your bench, because they stack. And you know, with access to supporters like Bridget, Fan Club, it could be extremely simple to both set up your opponent's Pokemon by giving it poison and then having it take massive amounts of damage both on the end of your turn and the end of his turn too. Maybe you can set up a situation where the opponent's Pokemon gets knocked out at the end of their turn, and then you can also get a hit in on a brand new Pokemon, letting you gain a massive amount of tempo during the game. But just in general, it's an incredible card. It also, talking a little bit about expanded with this card too, in the sort of anti-meta Seismitoad Hypnotoxic Laser deck, it'll be absolutely MVP in that deck as well. The Seismitoad kind of struggles with damage output. It always has. Definitely an extremely powerful ability, so it shouldn't have that much damage output. But with this, in combination with Hypnotoxic Laser Burbank, for every copy of Seviper, the Toad is going to be dealing, you know, incredible amounts of damage. It might more or less it could go up to 120 damage. Say you have Burbank plus 2 of these, it's 50 in each turn, and then with the frog with a in case you want to play choice band or muscle band in that format, it actually goes up to 150 damage per turn. So definitely starts 2-turn cycle, killing any Pokemon GX, EX, which Toad normally has to spend like 3 turns trying to kill. So definitely has a lot of potential in the expanded format. Maybe a little bit less so in standard, but I do like the card a lot, and I will definitely be playtesting with it. It's just one of those cards that is apparently powerful. Just when you read the card, you know that if it finds a home, it'll be one of the MVPs in that certain type of deck. So Viper is good for sure. Won't talk about this Dusknoir too much, but as I pass by him, his effect is good. It's just getting to him, you know, stage 2, I believe it is, yeah, is not the most viable stage to be at right now, without access to forests with giant plants, for example, or unless your name is Metagross, because that card is broken. So won't see play, I don't believe, though the effect, if it could be, you know, if it was a stage 1 for example, the effect would be absurdly powerful. So, you know, if someone tries to make like a rogue deck with this card and certain other cards, then could have a place in the format, but just stage 2 is too high of an entry barrier for a card like that to have an impact, at least right now. So big boy Necrozma. Alright, so this card here, there's a lot of hype surrounding this card. I don't particularly believe it's going to change the format in any drastic way. The rotation on its own will get rid of the viability of many cards that this card will get rid of, namely Dumbbell GX and Tauros GX will be slightly less prominent. So yeah, it is good, it is powerful. The effect obviously says permanent all damage done to this Pokemon from colorless Pokemon like Dumbbell and Tauros, so he could be seen as a counter to those cards, and with his first attack Prism Burst, you could definitely see him one-shotting those Pokemon. It's just setting him up is only really viable or possible in a Metagross deck or Metagross Solgaleo. You know, they could tech this card, but if you think about it, you want decks like that to be as streamlined as possible, so I don't think tech attackers are the way to go in those types of situations. So yeah, Darkrai GX though, you know, if you set it up, three energy cost investment is very high, but it does deal immense amounts of damage if your opponent is using mono GX or EX Pokemon decks, such as, you know, Lapras players often place all their Lapras on board. So it could have some utility in some of those matchups, but for the most part I just don't see it powerful enough, much like other cards in the set. This set in particular definitely is not as powerful as Guardians Rising. That obviously that doesn't need to be stated, but some cards might come out as strong in the future when the game slows down, if it does, but for now it's just not strong enough, or it doesn't have a home. Let's keep moving on here. Ooh, MVP is coming up. Oh, just one quick note. This guy looks pretty cool. Rapier has always been a nice Pokemon. Too bad it's not that playable. Let's see. Marshadow. Alright. So, this guy, I wanted to mention him particularly for standard. He'll be good. Definitely abusing the fighting weakness on a lot of the meta Pokemon in the format right now. You know, all the basic colorless Pokemon, Drampa, namely, he will be the #1 victim to Marshadow, but also Pokemon like Darkrai, etc. So he will see play in standard. He's just very splashable. The decks that can't, like, do not need him, like when you're fighting against a certain matchup that doesn't need a fighting weakness to be abused, you just discard him to an Ultra Ball or something, Sycamore him away, don't put him in the bench. So he's not really a liability when it comes to the 150 HP. Was the only problem that I see with this card. Other than that, it is just a splashable, powerful card. There's just no problem with it. So good card overall. And it, what I was gonna say, in expanded, can copy Seismitoad attack, among other attacks definitely, but Seismitoad, going back to Toad, he's one of my favorite cards for sure. You know, more copies of him, more consistent turn 1 openings, and fighting abuse, just like in standard, in expanded is good as well, so just gives more dimensions to an already good deck in expanded, so definitely we'll see a home there as well. one of the coolest cards in the set. Zero mana attack, not mana energy, for 10, and as you can see right here, 50 more if it has an item equipped to it. Definitely a card that could be a rogue deck, it could be brewed with. Anything. I would caution everybody to experiment with a zero energy attack. It could be extremely powerful in the future. So just a shout out to my boy Raticate right there. Moving on to the next one. So Garbodor. This is my vote for the single most powerful card in the set right now, as it's been revealed. It's basically, you know, in your face. This is a powerful card. It does everything that you want a Pokemon card to do. It is stage 2, like I was saying before, but definitely you're able to, you know, mitigate it with certain other cards. We'll see. We'll scroll down, and yeah, what can I say? It's first attack, infinite force. Like we've seen, whenever a Pokemon takes into account both active Pokemon as the amount of damage that it deals, it's just a powerful effect. The opponent, you know, you might say they can play around it, but everything needs energies, you know, except for that Raticate. But for the most part, everything needs energies. They will equip energies. They will attack you. So you can always set up an extremely powerful turn where you're taking advantage of that. And 30 per, normally effects like Tapaletta's Energy Drive are 20 per, you know, old school Mewtwo's, things like that. This is the first time that they've broken that threshold, you know, added another base 10 damage for each energy. So it's definitely a card that can deal a massive amount of damage extremely fast. It synergizes well with itself, like it's a self charging Pokemon because of its ability. So it can stand alone, it can stand with friends, as we'll see when we scroll down. And yeah, just in your face powerful. And its ability, we haven't had a card like this in a very long time, since the banning of Trump card. And I cannot stress this enough, the one thing that I've learned from playing Pokemon the time that I have played is getting cards from your graveyard besides VS Seeker, which might be rotated in the future, is extremely difficult. When you use a resource, it's almost certainly gone, and an effect like this, I can definitely see this GX attack being the priority towards the mid to late game, and I do not see myself using another GX attack if this is available to me. So in a deck like this, of course. So just an absolutely powerful Pokemon. Like I said before, just you can tell just by reading it that it's going to be a player in the format. Besides that, it has normal rates of HP for a stage 2 GX, and it'll all come down to how easy it is to set it up. And you know, everything looks good on paper, but depending on how the format shapes of it, if it slows down, if it speeds up somehow, then that'll play into its viability too. But definitely my vote for the best card in the set, at least right now. Or even if not the best, or the most influential, definitely just the most raw, powerful card to build around. And resistance to dark, weakness to Metagross. Moving on. Don't have to talk about any of these guys. Another awful Beware, because we need another awful Beware, why not? So something that I will do in series like these is to talk about every single item. I believe that, you know, most items printed are printed for a reason. They fit in decks, and they are all just powerful because of the nature of how items work. So let's talk about every single item just because I believe that they deserve to be talked about. Let's say Torment Spray here. Choose one of a card in your opponent's hand and reveal it. If it is a supported card, your opponent discards that card. If not, you can put it back to your opponent's hand. The only home that I can see this belonging to, because it is such a high variance card, is in Sylveon. Sylveon doesn't have a problem just essentially playing cards and throwing them away. even if they don't resolve. You know, you might sometimes hit a supporter if you don't set it up. The one thing that I can see happening is red card plus delinquent, and then this can be the final card that you play in the combo, so that your opponent, you know, discards that Sycamore that they held on to, discards that End they held on to, and they will have 0 cards in hand. They'll be top decking in Sylveon, and that's definitely where Sylveon wants to be, so this can be a combo piece in that deck. But again, too high variance for any other deck to play with it. Super Scoop Up. Okay, so we have arrived to the single most degenerate card being reprinted in Pokemon right now. You can delete this line of text. It just says flip a coin. If heads, you win the game. You are in an extremely favorable position for every single time you hit heads with this card. Whatever deck can abuse this card the most at Worlds will win Worlds. As of right now, it's looking like Decidueye. Definitely being able to just go back to your hand and back on board with Forest of Giant Plants with extreme ease. That deck could be, you know, a close to tier 0 deck coming into Worlds, depending on how the format shapes up. So I hate this card, but it'll be in every single one of my decks. It's absolutely broken card, basically. So Guzma, a replacement to Lysander, and it has a little bit of additional utility when it comes to switching your active Pokemon, like we saw with Golisopod. It can help there, but for the most part, it'll just replace Lysander in the deck that it has to, and the secondary effect can actually be a detriment sometimes. That's why it's not a strict version of Lysander, but that is, if decks add it to their lineup of cards, that is the effect that it would be replacing. So just have to work around the switching effect as well. Next trainer, so Wick. Definitely we'll look at the fuller one later on, but for now we'll look at this one. It's each player shuffles a hand into the deck and draws the same number of cards. You'll obviously draw one less because you're the one activating Wick. There's other cards that can do this effect. It's just not a good card. You never want to play a card that goes strictly -1 unless it's giving you some sort of blowout effect. This is a very defensive card, and yeah, it's just not something that you would want to add to a deck like willingly. It's just not powerful enough. So the next one we have is Potan. Very similar to Faded Town, affecting Mega Pokemon. This one affects Evolution Pokemon, obviously. And what makes me like this card a lot, it will see play in a lot of my decks and in the format as a whole, is every single time, I believe, yeah, every single time that they put a stage 1 and then a stage 2, they'll take 30 damage apiece. So, you know, against those Decidueye decks or Metagross decks, you know, Pros Rotation, they will be taking 60 damage counters just to make their full final evolved Pokemon, and definitely can change the course of some games. Definitely a powerful stadium. We'll see play. We have here a few other full art cards. They look really nice. Marshadow looks pretty cool. I wonder how the hyper rares look also. We'll want to pick up some copies of this card for sure. She looks awesome. There's Guzma, staple. Wick, as we were talking about before, even if it's a horrible card, still eye candy, so that's pretty cool. There's the rainbows. Don't really prefer the rainbows too much, simply because you can't really appreciate the Pokemon's color scheme just by looking at a little rainbow. So the rainbow pattern is not really that cool, but they are rare, they are expensive sometimes. If I pull them, I won't complain. He's one of the exceptions. Definitely looks a lot more powerful as a rainbow rare. So let's move on. Still have a few more cards to talk about. Wanted to give a shout out to this Vileplume. It can see play. If there's force in the format, it'll definitely see play, I believe. So just like I said before, like a lot of cards, in fact, that are coming out in this set, how slow will the format be? Will affect their viability. So just have to see how it all progresses. I do believe that this card is important to talk about. So it's just a little Dewpider, 60 HP, but for Worlds format, it's a Grass type Dewpider, and I believe if the ruling is correct, with Forest you can go into the Water Dewpider on turn 1 or whenever you want to set it up immediately. So it gives you a lot of insurance in Grass decks against Fire decks, which are obviously, because of the weakness, your most difficult matchups. So just a little bit of acknowledgement to the fact that they printed a Grass version of that card could be useful in the future. Fan favorite, it's pretty unplayable. There's the Charizard EX or Mega Charizard EX is probably significantly more playable than this one, but come on, he looks pretty cool. The full art is also very nice. We'll see him in a moment. I've spoken to some of my Pokemon friends and playtest partners, and definitely they say that Ho is viable. I am skeptical at best when it comes to this card. Definitely its HP is very good for a basic fire Pokemon. I would say that if nothing else, just the raw stats on the card, dealing 180 for 4, which we'll see is not as difficult to reach as you might believe at first glance. It doesn't discard the energy. You cannot attack for 180 on the next turn unless you do a retreat and then put him back in the active. But you know, raw power level is there. The card has potential, as we say, but skeptical at best. Mostly not because of the power level of this card. It could be because of the power level of, you know, for example, a card like Volcanion, which might just be overall the better fire Pokemon, but also, you know, skeptical about Kiawe's power level. As we'll see when we get to him, he's just not as good as people believe he is, so that in turn makes any strategy around him also significantly worse. But in expanded, do not exactly know what fire Pokemon you would put in to play with this, but I do know that that effect is extremely powerful whenever you get to ignore summoning conditions on Pokemon. Very powerful effect. So maybe its third effect sees play in different formats, even this format, but nothing conclusive as of right now. Skeptical at best. Next Pokemon we'll see is Kingdra. Just wanted to give a little shout out to him because he can deal 1 energy 90 damage. They already need to be damaged for him to do this, but you know, there's Flying Flip, Tapu Koko in the format, so definitely not the most difficult thing in the world to put damage counters on opponent's Pokemon. And for 1 energy, obviously 90 is extremely good rate, so he could see play. His second ability is also 90 and 30. I believe that effect is called Night Spear in other formats. Kingdra has Night Spear for 90, has to discard the water energy, but that's certainly not relevant to the card's power level. Definitely a playable card. Stage 2, but like I said, the power level by itself could prove it to be viable, so it's something to consider. Rogue deck, always possible, you know. Moving along with these, I don't believe I included any of these for the set review. They're just not great cards, basically filler cards in the set. They don't even look that good art wise, so they are there. We have Alolan Grimer. The other Alolan Grimer actually deals damage, so this one might be less powerful, but this one works more in like a pure muck deck, because it gives you added consistency to your deck. But the other one deals damage, so that's the one we prefer the most of the time. You can run a split of any amount of 4 that you want, but at least they printed it, So another big part of the format, I believe, is extremely underrated card. Kind of awkward to set up, because it's only a base of 10 damage for 3 energy, obviously completely unplayable, but there's a lot more to the card. It synergizes with itself, it's self-fueling because of its GX attack that essentially makes him one-shot anything, or most things, and yeah, because of that, it could be completely playable and also synergize with other cards in the format that give status conditions, kind of like the Raichu that we saw at the beginning of the side review. And then Ariados, cards like that. So face value, like I said, just an awkward card. You don't want to commit so much to a card like this for a potential 80 160 damage on average. It's just not as great. But obviously the one most important thing about the card, 0 commitment for a GX attack. Absolutely, that is very broken. So could be splashable, could see play. The most that I could see happening actually is that the original muck from base set gets played just as a replacement for Garbotoxin in most scenarios, and because of that, you might just want to splash on an Alolan Muck, play him down, GX attack, kind of like out-tempo your opponent without any commitment to the energy, but not the greatest card outside of that. We'll see. We have a Darkrai, extreme amounts of hype for the brand new Darkrai coming on this set. It's just like every other Darkrai in Pokemon, I believe. Very powerful. We'll see play. World's candidate for sure. For its attacks, the first attack, just a regular 2 energy, deal 30. Opponent's active Pokemon has no sleep. Could be useful in certain situations. Reason why we play him, Dark Raid. So 80 plus damage. If your opponent has used a GX attack this game, this attack does 80 more. So a common play that a lot of people are doing right now is they're using effects like Drompa's Draw 10 Big Wheel, or things like Algorithm, Soul Burst. If they try to abuse effects like that to gain consistency, maybe effects like that go on the uptick after N gets rotated from the format. People believe that if you can't reset their hand, those effects become significantly more valuable, which is true. This attack gains more and more value. I mean, he's 120, which is fantastic HP for a basic Pokemon. He deals 160 as a basic Pokemon for just 3, which is already more than the average 150 that Pokemon needs to be up to par with the format. So Choice Band is one-shotting legit GXs in the format, like Lapras, the new Ho if that one sees play, Volcanions and stuff like that. So everything for the most part. Will see play is good. So we have Diancie right here. I haven't seen many people talking about this card, but it's like a silent all-star. Definitely goes in the fairy deck, obviously, but splashable and powerful because of rainbow energy. So it says you search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon, and you put it on that Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Accelerates Garbodor. Gardevoir, yeah, and Garbodor too, if you want to go down that route. But Gardevoir, for the most part, accelerates it. And if that deck is not as slow as it, I suppose is intended or looks to be at first, if you can get multiple Gardevoirs out early in the game by turn 2, turn 3, start accelerating energy, just with its ability and energy attachment to the turn, no other requirements at all, it could be even one of the best decks in the format. I mean, 230 HP, nothing will one-shot it except for Solgaleo. Some stuff barely two-shots it, could be healed because of its ability. You could heal it with Max Potion, so there could be little combos there. But this card accelerates slow decks, and that is a scary prospect because slow decks are already, keep up with current decks in the format right now. So the fact that they are getting faster is just a scary thought, but definitely a powerful card. Could be a staple. If I'm not mistaken, searches energy. Yes. So this one, you search basic energy. Another piece of the puzzle to make Garbodor incredible, and could see play in multiple different decks. It's just a toolbox card. If your deck needs energies, this card is in your deck. It's splashable. It's good. Just generic, powerful card right there. Ryombi. Next one we're gonna see. So I don't want to talk about him too much. Norvin. A lot of people like him. This card is just not good. Stage 1 didn't need to be a stage 1. They made him a stage 1. That's already enough to disqualify him as a powerful card, mostly because why put an anti-meta effect that you want to resolve as soon as possible on a card that you can't get out on turn 1 without assistance from Wally and things like that, or after double dragon energy gets rotated. It's just, even an expanded where it will be legal. Is that really what someone wants to be doing? Like, there's other options for the same exact effects, and it's just slow, clunky, won't be that good. Even the GX attack, which most GX Pokemon, even if they're bad, kind of like Muck for example, their GX attack sometimes is so devastating that it makes up for the fact that the Pokemon is bad and just makes it viable because the GX attack exists on the card. This one is not like that. 50 damage to each Pokemon. Let's say your opponent has 3 Pokemon on average on their bench, or between their bench and their active. 4. Let's give them 4. It's only 200 damage spread. You would rather just deal 200 damage to one Pokemon, knock it out, get the prizes, continue with the game plan. So it's just not a powerful card. So talked about him a little bit more than I wanted to, but yeah, just not a good card. So we're going through here. Like I said, I'll speak to all the items. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put them back on top of your deck in any order, and then shuffle them back into your deck. So it needs a little bit more to be powerful. Definitely it can't just be a better trainer's mail if it added a card to your hand, because that would be a little too good. But it's one of those cards that doesn't do anything. You just don't want to even put this in your graveyard or draw this card at any point in the game. It's just not a great card. I guess items can be bad. Let's see. Muscle Dumbbells could be a player in the format. Adding HP to Pokemon has always been powerful. Ruining the opponent's strategy and somewhat like ruining their math. Taking tempo away from their plays by having them not one-shot your Pokemon. Always been good. So just the fact that it gives stage 1s a unique option for an item, and it's increasing HP in this case by 40, so it's just a very good item. Will see play in some decks for sure, and who knows, it could be an important player in the future for the format. Just a basic example, you put it on a Garbodor, it doesn't get one-shotted by what has been one-shotting my Garbodors recently. The Bulu. Bulu can no longer kill it in one shot without discarding his energies or using his GX attack. So there you go. In the late game, it changes the landscape of a game like that in particular. So just right then and there, a good card overall and will affect games. So search your deck. Oh, so Kiawe, yeah. Everybody has been talking about this in our circle of players. Very anticipated card. I just want everybody to consider what would you do if you do not open this card, if you do not play this card turn 1, if you are on the draw and your opponent starts to out-tempo you because they went first. It's just, does it do after turn 1, you know? And even on turn 1, okay, so most of the time that argument, you know, isn't really great, because there are a lot of cards that can search it on the format. You have 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Lele. If you played 4 of this, that's already 12 Kiawes in the deck of 6 cards, so you have a very good chance of opening it up on turn 1. So it's definitely viable in terms of that. But say you do set up a Pokemon, you end your turn, it starts attacking on the next turn, and you went first, so now on your second overall turn you're gonna start attacking with your big, like, mean Pokemon, one-shotting a bunch of things. Well, what are those bunch of things exactly? Your opponent can choose what Pokemon to feed you. You know, if you don't have access to the new Lysander Guzma, you know, Pokemon Catcher, I believe it's called, the coin flip one. So just overall, what if you don't one-shot what they put up? For example, with the Ho-Oh, what if you don't have a choice band? They have a Lapras, you know, it has 10 HP left. Difficulties, you know. So it's just, is it powerful? Unquestionably, energy acceleration is powerful, will always be powerful, but in the form of a supporter that can just make you get tempoed out so hard by your opponent, ending your turn after turn 1 is just something that you cannot do. Just, I don't see it. Could be completely wrong, because again, it's one of those cards where on a dime the power level could be absurd and in a slow format, right? So that's what a lot of players are seeing right now, that, you know, what if the format is slow? What if there's no other better options? What if, you know, the consistency of decks reach a point where you do get to open it turn 1 every single game, which you are close to, honestly, right now, with the access to Lele. So powerful, yes. Consistent, yet to be seen. Skeptical, as I might say. So we'll have Plumeria, another little tool for the Sylveon deck, anti-meta decks in general, just decks that want to deal be more interactive with what the opponent is doing. Discard 2 cards from your hand, discard 1 energy from anywhere on the field. Notably, it's anywhere, it's not Flare Gun. Obviously, Flare Gun is a more powerful card because you don't have to go negative to use it. But maybe discarding cards is what you want to do, you know? So, just, it has potential, but maybe in a format where it's pivotal to take away energies from, you know, certain Pokemons, it could be better. Right now, not even Flare Gun is that powerful, or even if it is powerful, it's just not something you want to be doing. Definitely want to be drawing cards as much as possible in this format. So, you know, a splash in some decks, some amount of copies in the Sylveon deck, but that's all she wrote on that one. Mount Lunakila. I have not actually read this one. So retreat card of each of player's basic Pokemon is increased by colorless. I mean, again, only a card you really play if you had no other stadium to play. Definitely will have a stadium to play. There's a lot of good ones besides this one in the format. Sometimes good, sometimes completely useless. Not really a card I look forward to playing, but it might find a home somewhere eventually in the format. Oh, actually, one thing I will note about this card, a lot of players are, for example, in the dark decks floating around right now in the format, people, and some psychic decks too, the Garbodor, Espeon Garbodor decks, people only retreat with Altar of the Moon, yeah, so Won't affect evolution Pokemon, but definitely if they want to retreat, for example, a Drampa with Alter of the Moon. Oh, I guess you would replace Alter of the Moon anyway, so it wouldn't matter. No, yeah, it's just me trying to find a home for this card. It's just not that good of a card at all, actually. It being a stadium is pretty awkward in general. Just cards that do not... kind of completing the thought here. Cards that don't get immediate value but have to be placed on the battlefield, kind of like stadiums like this one, are not good for... Yeah, they're just not, or not necessary, you know. A card like Broken Hill, for example, is actually extremely powerful because it's a card that remains on the battlefield unless it's dealt with, and it keeps giving you more resources, more Pokemon, and even if they kill it immediately when they get a chance to, it still got you netted you at least one card, so increase the consistency of your deck, things like that. So not exactly. Man, the stadiums in this set are all bad except for Potown, which is very good, but we'll see. Funny how I took up so much time on a stadium. There's Noivern again. This one looks pretty cool. Looks pretty mean. The people's favorite. I want to believe it's good. We'll see. I'll definitely pick up my own copies just in case. She looks incredible in full art. Many people are looking forward to this card in particular. You could see play. There's better Charizards though. Escape Rope Reaping in gold. Very powerful card in the format. I think that's every card, yeah. So that's basically everything for the set review. Good thing I took some time in the last card because that was it. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for sticking with me this long. I know the set review took a while. I hope that it was informative for you guys. Hopefully you know, you started to look at certain cards in a different light. I know that sometimes the hype can cloud judgment, but certainly some cards are apparently powerful, other cards are apparently not as powerful. So we are yet to see how, you know, the format unfolds, and Worlds will definitely be super interesting because of the giant card pool selection that will be available at that event only. So it's yet to be seen how the format will adapt. Will it become faster? Will it become slower? Yet to be seen. But for now, that'll be everything from me. Thank you to the community for watching, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you guys some more content in the near future. So again, this is my first video. My name is Fernando, and to everybody out there, you guys can call me Fluffy Paws. That's a nickname given to me by a friend of mine, and yep, I guess I'll give a little trivia out there. My favorite Pokemon is Espeon. He's definitely cool, and yeah, it's because of Espeon that I play the TCG card game now. So that's just a little fun fact about me. So yep, Fluffy Paws signing out.